Hello and welcome to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. My name is Rob Dosser. I have our Big Ten expert, Mike LaTulip, here with me, and we're going to be breaking down Wisconsin's off-season and the way that things have kind of changed in Madison. So there are some big changes. There are some notable changes to discuss here. For starters, John Tonji, gone. Graduated after his 38th year as a member of a college basketball program. Stephen Crowell is gone. Max Klesmit is gone, and Kamari McGee is gone. But Wisconsin did some work in the portal, as much work as I think I can remember a Wisconsin program ever doing in the transfer market. They added Andrew Rohde from Virginia, Austin Rapp from Portland, who I think is actually going to be pretty good. Braden Carrington's coming in, a Tulsa transfer, adds some depth. Elijah Gray from Temple, another guy that adds some depth. And most notably, one of my favorite point guards in college basketball, Nick Boyd, a lefty transfer from San Diego State, who played in the Final Four for Florida Atlantic back in the 2023 season. He is going to pair with John Blackwell in the backcourt. John Blackwell, a guy that I think has a chance to be a first-team caliber player in the Big Ten this season. I think he is right there with Braden Smith and Yaxel Lendenborg as the three guys that I would kind of have as the first names on my all Big Ten first team list. So what do you make of what Gard has done this offseason with Wisconsin? He lost a lot of production and a lot of talent, but I still think that this is a top 25 team that has a chance to be in that mix for top 5 in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I really like their offseason. I think when you go through and you look at what they lost, just like some of these other teams in the Big Ten that are going to be up at the top, it's, hey, can you retain, if it's not literal pieces, can you retain pieces of the system that worked for you? And I think they've done that. I think, they got guys like the hallmark of this Gard program, and really with Bo Ryan prior, is do you have multiple handlers, right? Do you have multiple guys that can create? And I think we saw that over the years, like when it was Johnny Davis and then and Chucky Hepburn, and then the kind of the 2.5 was Brad Davison, and then last year it's Tanjay and it's Blackwell and it's Hepburn, or not Hepburn, it's Klesmit. They've always kind of had that, and I think when you go and look and you get Nick Boyd, Rhodey was almost a 5 assist a game guy at Virginia last year, despite I think some dysfunction in that program with the Tony Bennett exit. I like that they've retained that. And then I think we'll get into some of the X factors. We'll get into who I think can pop for this team this year. But certainly, I mean, Austin Rapp's a guy that, his freshman year at Portland, getting up almost 8 threes a game. I mean, he's a guy this year that's going to have 5 3-pointer games, 6 3-pointer games. He reminds me a lot of Jamison Battle at Minnesota, just from the standpoint of like, great size, not a guy that you can like really depend on to like get downhill or like.
Look, I'll tell you what, when you said he reminds me a lot of that, the last person I thought you would have said was Jamison Battle, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
No, it's like, he was
it's not your worst comparison ever.
He's a high volume 3-point guy because of, his size. He'd get his shot off. It wasn't the most efficient inside the 3-point arc, but always a guy that you kind of had to worry about. And I mean, Jamison Battle's, 7 a game for the Raptors this past year, like good player. But Rapp, I see him kind of being that guy. So, and then Boyd, just as that addition in general, like I look at, Trayvon Jackson for this team a few years ago, right? When Trayvon Jackson was kind of that steady, point guard, off guard for those really, really good Wisconsin teams. And he was always like, 6 a game, 9 a game, but just really sturdy and solid. And I think that's just what you get with Nick Boyd. I think he can step out, he can shoot it. I think he can set the table. I think he can guard. That's all just really stabilizing aspects and components to a player.
You know what else he is? He's a fantastic culture guy.
Yes.
Like he is someone that you bring into your locker room, put on your bench, put in your organization, put as a point guard, as a 5th-year guy that is going to be able to kind of bring the mood up for everyone around him. That is not necessarily going to be a me guy, that is going to be a cheerleader on the bench, even when he's not succeeding. Like he's very much a guy that can help develop that culture. And that brings me, so my X factor for this Wisconsin team is this is a program kind of like Michigan State, kind of like Purdue, that is not really lent all the way in to the idea of being like a transfer portal hub, right? And they got 5 transfers coming in, they got 4 freshmen coming in, and they got 3 returnees that played real minutes coming
Yeah.
back. And that is a lot of turnover on a roster that is, and in a program that is not accustomed to having that much turnover. And my biggest question is just like, how does Greg Gard deal with that? Because I do
Yeah.
believe as a coach, it's not the easiest thing to do to be able to get all of those new faces on board, install your offense, install your defense, be able to kind of teach all that stuff and get them ready to go in that short amount of time, especially when like with Boyd and Rhodey, like you got 1 year with him. Carrington, you got 1 year with him. Gray, you got 1 year with him. How is he going to be able to kind of bring all of these key pieces in and get them playing the way that he wants to be able to play? Like how long does that take is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. I think with Greg Gard, I've just kind of learned to trust him. He seems to
Yes.
always exceed preseason expectations. And I think he's done it in a way last year was really notable, but they've really modernized things at Wisconsin. Wisconsin used to just be known for like, you know, play in the 50s, pull you into the mud, low possession. And then all of a sudden last year, it's like, okay, we got Tanjay, we got Blackwell, we got Klesmit, we got guys that are really good in space, that win matchups, that get to the foul line when we get them in that space. So what are we going to do? We're going to play fast. We're going to have more transition and fast break points than we've had in Wisconsin's history last year. So like I've just grown over the years to trust Gard in that sense I know like Krabenhoff's a big part of that on that staff. But like they've done just such a good job of modernizing things offensively, modernizing things defensively to be able to adjust to this day and age and how you're successful in college basketball in 2025. So how they work that in this year, like I see some of the vision with like the 2 to 3 handlers. I see the vision. I'll get into my X factor, but just whether it's with Rapp or with Nolan Winter and the jump that he can make, kind of filling that Stephen Krall spot. I just have trust, man. And when we talk about preseason expectations and like a lot of that falls on like, do you trust the coach to be able to make something shake with the pieces? And I trust Gard.
Yeah, 100%. So who's your X factor then?
My X factor is Nolan Winter. I think he started every game he played for the Badgers last season, but he didn't eclipse 30 minutes per game in or 30 minutes in any game that he played. And I think that's going to change this year. This is a dude that's 7 foot, shot 36% from three, high IQ, took care of the ball. And I think he's going to shift to where Stephen Krall was kind of stationed within that offense when they don't have some of their ball screen continuity stuff and they play more 5 out as like with Krall as a hub. I think that's going to be Winter this year. And I think he's going to have a real impact. And I think he's got a little more wiggle and athleticism than Krall had. Krall was like a very stable, high IQ piece. And I think Winter's kind of next in line with that. And he's just a guy that, I could see being a 12 to 14 point per game guy. And when we get into February and March, like he's a real, potential, like honorable mention, third team all league. Like I really think that highly of Nolan Winter. And so if he does those things and becomes that like really dependable piece, now we start, I think, reworking again how we start projecting this Wisconsin team as, not only in the regular season, but going into March.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Yeah, the thing that stands out to me is it goes along with what you've been saying, but you're bringing in Nick Boyd, who averaged 5 threes attempted per game at San Diego State this past season. John Blackwell shot 5 threes a game. That number's probably going to go up with John Tanji heading off to the NBA, right? Andrew Rhodey shot
Rapp
4 threes a game. Yeah, Rapp got up almost 8 a game with Portland. Carrington shot 5 threes a game. Nolan Winter was a guy that shot 2.5 threes a game in 20 minutes per game, and those numbers, like they are a team last year that already was like top 15 in terms of 3-point rate and much, much faster than they played in the past. And I can only see that going up, and I can only see Greg Gard. Like, I think that he learned something, right? Like, oh, you know what? We did this whole pace and space thing, and we had guys that were able to get to the line and create off the bounce and get one-on-one, and we could run this offense with all this space. And then we give it to someone that's able to go get a paint touch whenever he wants in Tanji. And this is what happens, and this is how good we are. Well, why don't I lean into that? Why don't I let John Blackwell be that guy? Get a bunch of big guys that can step out and knock down threes, force defenses to move away from the basket to guard Austin Rapp, because he's going to, if you let him stay open, he might go 5 for 5, 6 for 6 from three in a game, right? And create that space and allow these guys to excel. And I think he's leaning into that this season, and the additions that they made in the portal, you can see that. So I think that works very well for allowing Nolan Winter to be a guy that produces, because like, he's going to get a lot of one-on-one opportunities when you get down there on the block, when you kind of get it. So I'm excited to see. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for this group?
I mean, I think Wisconsin falls into the category that I call the double bye upside category. I think they have Big Ten tournament double bye upside.
That's top four, right? Yeah.
Top 4 seed in the Big Ten. It's very likely when you get into that double bye spot, you're a top probably 6 to 7 seed at worst in the NCAA tournament. I think that maybe slide even higher this year. Maybe if you're top 4 in the Big Ten this year, you may be a top 3 to 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. Like, I think, and I know I'm a Big Ten guy and I played in the Big Ten, but I just see so many similarities to, the SEC was historic last year. So I don't want to like go apples to apples here. But when you return 6 of your top 13 scorers in the league, that's pretty real. And I love the influx of talent that they brought in. So again, I think Wisconsin can be in that mix in the top 4 to 5 in the league. I trust Greg Gard. I talked about just the modernization of the systems on both ends, adjusting to 2025 basketball. And I think you're just going to see, like you said, it's a doubling down this year. And I think John Blackwell, I'm so glad you mentioned that at the top of the show, because he is absolutely, not only is he, a first team all league candidate, I think he is a major, major dark horse for Big Ten Player of the Year. It would not shock me at all if, and if Purdue wins the league, they'll give it to one of those two guys. But there is a world where if Purdue doesn't win the league, and there's so much with Purdue where things kind of get balanced out. And if Wisconsin makes a run at this and gets, second or third, and Blackwell's 19 a game on crazy efficiency, it's not crazy is what I'll say.
Yeah. Well,
with
I mean,
John Blackwell.
I don't disagree with that. And what I'll say is this: John Tanji last year
he was in the mix.
Yeah, he was in the mix, and he had him and Blackwell had similar levels of usage, but John Tanji was infinitely more efficient than Blackwell was, because of what he shot from three, because of how often he was able to get to the free throw line. And I think a lot of that was because when things broke down, it was, all right, give the ball to Tanji, get out of the way, whereas Blackwell spent more time as a spacer. And I think that without Tanji there, they're going to see a lot more instances where it's give the ball to Blackwell, get the hell out of the way, and let these other guys be the spacers. And you could see a situation where, if that 3-point percentage ticks up a little bit and that free throw rate kicks up a little bit, it's not out of the question to see him average 18, 19, maybe even 20 a game. Tanji was at 19.5.
I'll still never forget at the Big Ten tournament last year, Wisconsin, Michigan State, the game, like crunch time, need a bucket. The play that Greg Gard drew up was for John Blackwell. And I know they had Tanji as kind of a decoy in that play, but he trusted Blackwell in that situation to get downhill and make something happen, and he did. So that's kind of been burned in my brain since then. I maybe a precursor to what we see this year.
Yep. All right. Your grade for the offseason for the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, I think I have a B+. I think, again, like you lost a lot, but I like the fact that Greg Gard is experimenting with the portal. I like the guys that they got. I think, again, with Boyd and Rhodey coming in, it gives you that trio of guys again that can play make a little bit, which has just been a hallmark of this Wisconsin program. I like the Rapp fit. We'll see. I mean, they got the Bielauskis guy from Second League Lithuania. We'll see what he ends up being. I don't have crazy high hopes, but I just like I like the pieces that they got that I think maintain this culture and this system at Wisconsin. And again, I just seen B plus off seasons have been turned into A's for Greg Gard. He's proven that over the years.
Yeah, I have a B plus for them as well for the exact same reason. Like it's impossible to overlook how much it hurts to lose someone as productive as Tanji and a guy in the core to what your identity was as a program. Like Stephen Crowell's been there for 87 years, right? I feel like he was his first recruiting visit to Wisconsin was hosted by Frank Kaminsky. That's how long he's been there, and to lose kind of a stalwart like that in your program, it hurts, but they did enough work in the offseason to be able to have the pieces where you put it all together on paper. And that's a team that is a second weekend caliber team. And I think that is something that should be celebrated and highlighted for the Wisconsin Badgers. Listen, all summer and heading into the start of the fall, we're going to be doing these Field of 68 off-season grades, hopefully as many as 45 to 50 for you guys. So make sure to check it out on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. Till then, my name is Rob Dosser. That was Mike Latula. We appreciate you guys checking out this episode of Off-Season Grades.